Hey up everybody and welcome back. Well, you've been a little bit surprised that this video came out early. That's because this weekend we're off to Florida for our week in the sun. So that means this one's early and next weekend there won't be one at all, I'm afraid. So you'll have to wait 2 weeks for the next one. Alright, 3 items of business before we start on the bike. First one, we now have 4,700 subscribers. So again, as I've said before, thank you all very much. I never thought I'd get so many people wanting to watch an old man working in a shed doing whatever the hell he felt like. So anyway, again, thank you. That leads us into the second item of business. Our partner here feels that the increase in subscribers is due entirely to his presence. So we had to have a few negotiations and as you can see we had to come up with a few concessions. He still hasn't promised that he'll do a full day's work, but he says he will appear now and again. So there you go. The third item I should be wearing my dunce cap for. You all know what it is, so let's go over to the bike and we'll talk about that. Now this of course is last week's deliberate mistake. Saturday afternoon the new Sprocket arrived in the post, so I thought I'll just stick it on, see what's what, and of course I thought let's see, that's a bit wider than I thought it was. Let's try with my little rod. And as soon as I put it on I thought to myself, wait a minute, it should go on where the chain is. So of course instead of going to the wheel spindle it should go down here. And I thought, you know, you prat. So it was Saturday afternoon, I almost went up to the house, got the camera, refilmed this little bit, but I'd already edited the video, I'd already converted it from the camera format to the upload format, so I just put the little note on. Anyway, a couple of things now added to this. I sent an email to Gary Fleckney, who makes the RockShox, told him what I'd be wanting, and he said that would have 4.5 inches of travel. I also spoke to, what's his name, who used to race the 650, to ask about what size sprockets he used, and he had a 17 on here and he's pretty sure it was a 44 on the back, which I think is standard for the XS 650. So that one is a 50. And I know it clears here nicely, because I was thinking if I needed a bigger sprocket I'd have to move it in, because this arm of the swinging arm is at an angle, so the bigger you get the closer you come to this. But that's fine there. So this sprocket actually is a sort of 9-inch sprocket. So from here, from where the chain is to the wheel spindle is about 4.5 inches. So if I put that there where the chain is going to be, and I come up, see there's the 4.5 inches and I'm well below the swinging arm. I can actually come right up to here. So we're going to get the full suspension travel, and because I've only got one old shock on, it's probably down a little bit now anyway. But anyway, we have got plenty of movement with the engine here. It's not too high, the plates line up and everything like that. So I'm alright with the rear wheel. That's a good place where it's going to be. So once I take the 1/4 inch off the hub, the rim will then be on the centre line. So don't have to worry about the spokes. I can just get a standard set of spokes and lace it up. Right, let's get on with these engine plates. Now there's the first 1/4 inch plate cut out. As you can see, this one's a little fiddly because on that right hand side of the engine there's various bits that stick out. The plate on the other side is going to have a much easier side. So I did this one to make sure everything was alright, and what I decided to do was just experiment a little bit, and I've cut this out with the plasma cutter because I wanted to see what it was like with thick alloy. So let me mark up another piece and then we'll actually cut it out, and you can see how easily the plasma cutter works in this aluminium. Now I've got this one marked out, and I didn't have to, I just checked this on the engine, I didn't need all these little cutouts, so it's a much simpler one to do. I've also changed the tip in this. I was using this tip, which is the one, it's a sort of little offset. Sometimes apparently you get these with like a wire guard, and you press the guard down and that holds you the right amount. These, I've been using this because I've used a guide. I didn't want to use a guide here, but what I found with this was it sort of obscured where I was cutting, and I found I cut really wide around it, and I ended up having to sort of file and sand off a lot of stuff. So I'm just going to use the one where you hold it and see if that will work. So because I'm going to hold it like that, you put some gloves on. Keep your fingers crossed that I'm able to follow this line. Yeah, I think we'll be alright. Alright, let's try. We'll do the outside first, of course. Because you may remember some time ago I did the inside line and never thought about it and the thing fell off. So you do the outside line and then you do that bit. Perhaps I better switch it on, eh? Hold on a second. Right, we'll try again. See what I mean? That's a lot better than messing around with saws and things. Whoops, I got a bit wobbly then. Bumped into the stool. All right. Let me sand all this up and then we'll put some holes in it. Now while that engine plate's cooling, I'm going to mark up the front end. Now we're going to put two holes in this, so we want to be in the centre of this tube. Being round, it's not that easy to get the exact, even with the centre finder, you've got to know that you're in the right plane. So this is 1.5 inches and this is 1.5 inches. So anything that's stretched across the two of them is just touching the edge on both sides. So what I've done is cleaned that up, put some die chem on, and then what we'll do is we'll put that to there, and hopefully when we scratch this down here, we'll put a mark down, and that's right on the centre of the line of that. So I'll go and do the other side, and then I'll put the engine back in and we'll go and see if that plate's cool. Now I've filed and sanded this, so we're now the same. As I mentioned, this didn't have to be quite as complicated a shape. So we're going to put that down like that. Make sure everything's where it should be. And we'll use a transfer punch. This one's 3/8. Now with transfer punches, it's not the punch for drilling. All you want to do is mark. And if you start using them really heavily, you'll lose the end, and you can't really grind these the same as you can an ordinary punch. This is the next size up because these holes are 10mm. So all we want to do is put a little mark on them. Then we'll come back with the big punch and put our drilling mark on. Right, let me drill 3 holes. Now then, there's our 2 plates, and where are we? No, that's 3/8. Now wait for a minute there. One 10mm, another 10mm, and the 3/8 that goes up into there. So, the moment of truth. Okay. So that one's going to go on there. So we'll put the. I'm getting in the way a bit, aren't I? We'll go around the other side. Right. Going to go on there. Go on, get on. It's going to go on there, and that has to go in there, so that engine needs jacking up a bit. There we go. Now then, this one goes in. 3/8 frame. Now I've made one spacer for this side there, but I haven't made the one for the other side yet because we've got to make sure everything lines up right, and then I can make them both exactly the correct size. So come on now. There you go. Messing me about like that. Thought it might be a bit of a chew to get it through the actual mounting hole, but not through the spacer. Alright, let's see. Come on, come on. There we go. Let's see if we can get this bottom one through here. Do it from the other side. I've got more space over this side. Come on. Oh, you look at that. As I said, I made this one slightly differently, and I am catching on something here. So I need that taken out. Just like that. Alright, let me go cut a little bit off this plate and then I'll be right back. Right. Got the put the top one through and got those two little ones in, so let's see if our rod will go through there now. Oh, I can see the hole. It's just, there it goes. There it goes. Now, how is it on this side? Oh no, we're still on the, where's my little tapping hammer? I suppose I should just okay, let's see what we got now. Tell you what, I'm going to put a little taper on the end of that. It was just a rough edge from when the rod was cut there, so that's it. Alright, let's tighten these two 3/8 ones up. No, that's 17mm, 9/16. Boom, boom, boom. That's that. Bring it around this side, you can actually see the plates better. Alright, that's that. There's the plate in this side. I was just catching there on the other one, so I just took it back slightly. So this is 4140 rod, 10mm, that I'm going to make the bolt out. I've got another piece of rod to make the long one through the bottom. And actually on this side you can see also much better the way we're going to do this. You see how that points to there? We're going to make a fitting there, and then it's going to come down and there'll be a mounting fitting, a mounting there. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the two mountings, put them on, make the spouts on the spacers so it can all be, the bolts can be put through, everything can be tightened up, and then we can make the bits of tube that go to them. So now we've got to check the chain line, and well, front tube's in the centre of the engine, so that's pulled up nicely by the looks of it. What am I looking for? A bit of rod. But now we're going to see that it's actually bolted in and the wheel's bolted in if our rough measurements were right. And no, they weren't, unless that's got to come over. See, that's why I didn't make the spacers. I can move the engine. That can't be right, that's a long way out. Well, it's a 1/4 of an inch. Now, isn't that what I was saying about having to move the engine over 1/4 of an inch? Yeah, that would probably do it. Okay, let me get the levels out and check that all this is straight and horizontal and everything, and then we can check that chain line again. Now, you know, I've told you about not throwing things away. I had a quick rummage and I found some perfect 1/4 inch aluminium spacers, just the right size, 3/8 hole. So I've spaced it, I put a spacer in between the frame mounting on the other side and just moved the whole thing over, left the plate connected to the engine the same. So I think you can just about see that, but here's a nice straight piece of rod. Press it on there, and that's just nicely touching that. So our chain line's right, chain's not touching the swinging arm. Should be when I take a 1/4 inch off there, then that's going to come, because I haven't moved this. So a 1/4 inch to bring the wheel over, the sprocket's staying there, it'll bring the wheel over a 1/4 inch, and that will put it on the centre line. Alright, so that's the back mounting made. We can now look at the front mounting, because if I get the back and the front in, that will hold it all nice and straight. Then we'll do the top, and then everything will be in good and rigid, and we can make up bottom tubes and everything. I still might have to make the tube on one side detachable. I'm not sure. We'll look at that tomorrow. Surprised how long all that filing and fiddling takes to get those plates right. Anyway, until tomorrow. Alright, it's the next morning. So while the workshop was heating up a bit, I measured this space here, made another spacer. I made them the diameter to match these things. Looks so much nicer. So that is all bolted in tight there. We've got our rod through the bottom, which is going to be threaded to be a bolt, well stud. So what I've done is this is clamped onto the sprocket. So that is a nice straight line through the bike. And I've measured from there to the edge of the case, and the engine is straight. I've also put a level on the sides of the cases, and it's vertical, so the back plates are holding this in very nicely. So let's go and have a look what we're going to do for the front plates. Right, here we are around at the front. So there's the line we marked, you may remember. So I know that's sort of right on the edge of the curve of this, it's down the centre. I've just eased out this because the actual mounting on the engine is sort of recessed, same as it was at the back. The back it didn't matter because we were putting spacers in here, but here the engine plates are going to go flat on there and they're going to come down. So I've just eased it out with a file, both sides down here. So what we're going to do, we've got our line marked there. We're going to mark, oh, should have brought my chair over. We're going to make our plate triangular like that. So it's got, see, if we just put a hole there and a hole there, this whole thing could do that. So we're going to make the plate triangular so that it's stiff in that plane. Can't move because there's a bolt at the top, there's a bolt at the bottom. It's a pity there's only one hole here, but never mind. But then if you think about the Enfield's got several bolts here, but only one in the frame. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to measure up, make a mark, and then measure up to here and make another mark, and that's going to be where we're going to drill for 2 3/8 bolts. So I've got to give myself enough room not only for a hole for the 3/8 bolt, but also a hole for the sleeve tube that's going to go through. Then when we've got that and that, I'm going to drill a couple of thin small diameter holes through, so I can put a little bit of rod through, and we're going to measure from the centre there to the little bit of rod, which will give us the centre of this, from the centre of there to there. Then with a little bit of simple geometry and a pair of compasses, we'll mark out our template. So let me first of all, without getting in front of you, so let's think. We need 3/8, then for what? We want this wall to be quite thick, so say an 1/8, that's another 2/8, so that's a 5/8 hole. So a 5/8 hole, and then give ourselves a little bit down here, say there. So we want 5/8 hole, that's 5/16 is halfway. So we're going to go and measure this one right, Michael. 5/16 from, let's make sure that this is it. We'll make that a 1/2 inch to there, and then I can measure the same size up, same distance up on the other side, and then 5/16 from there, which is going to be there. Now we want the other one to be about here. We want that to be in the middle sort of thing. So that is nearly an inch. So let's make them 2 inches apart. I'll put the other one there. Right, so I'm going to go around, mark the other side, and then I'll bring the starter drill and we'll just drill a little hole there that I can put a bit of rod through, and I'll show you why I'm going to do that in a moment. Now I've got my little holes drilled, and the reason I do it this way from both sides is because drilling straight holes in this sort of situation is a skill I've just never mastered. I've tried using a square, but keeping the drill sort of level in the 2 planes, forget it. So if you do it this way, if I tried to do it, it would go in there and it would come out here, or it would come out like that. So I just have given up on that. Right, now then, the reason for the little bit of this is that's going to go through there. The hole on the other side somewhere. There we go. I've got it to a point. Also got that to a point. Now then. Now I know I've got centre to centre. Alright? So that is 1, 2 and 1/8. So let's mark that down. We've got 3 holes. You can't see me, but I'm writing this down. That was 1 1/8. Check that. Now of course I could do this with a pair of calipers, but I haven't. Come on, where's the other hole? There it is. And the reason I'm using these is so that I'm measuring level. I'm not trying to measure from here to there, because obviously that would be slightly out. So this is being measured nice and level. Pull that out a little bit. Now that is 2, 1, 2 and 3/16. And we know that distance is 2 inches. Let me check that. Did I mismeasure that again? Are you all saying, "Wow, you've done it again, you've done it again"? I have, haven't I? That wasn't 1, it was 1, 2 and 1/8. God. I'm getting old. Alright, now we'll get our compass out and I'll show you how to do this. But before we do that, this is really easy. As I say, 3 holes like that, we can do a little bit of geometry, it's done. Now supposing, for instance, when I put the 350 Triumph Twin in one of these frames, you've got 2 holes here and you've got several holes. Let me make sure you can see this. Right, say you had several holes here, as I say, like with that Triumph. Well, you could do lots of measuring and probably work it out, but the easiest way to do it is with 2 pieces of cardboard. You get 1 piece and you make yourself a template that fits the engine and has, say, those 3 holes in it. You cut that out and you make a nice big piece that sticks out here. Then you cut yourself another piece of cardboard and you mark those 2 holes in it. Then you put bolts in, so you've got both pieces of cardboard in, so one's on top of the other. You just stick some tape on, or what you can do if you want is you can mark where one is. And then when you've got them stuck together, you've made one composite template and it'll have all the holes in. Cut it to shape, check it, and then you can go from there. Alright, let's go and do our simple one. Now then, we know we've got 2 holes. one there, and one at 2 inches. Okay. Then from this hole to there is 2 1/8. So we get our compasses out. And we go 2 1/8 from there. Oh, I'm shaking today. And then from that one to there is 2 3/16. I'm having one of those days. 2 3/16. I must be excited because I'm going to Florida. I'm actually going to see some sunshine and some warmth. 2 3/16 from there. So there is where our other hole is going to be. So we've got our 3 bolt holes. We'll just decide what shape we want it to be around that. We'll cut it out. So let me go and punch 3 holes and cut this to shape, and then we'll actually see if I'm right. Alright. Well, I think I've gone off a little bit when I've punched the hole in here, right? Obviously that's right because it's on the bolt. There's the line I used to mark the punch. That one's dead on the centre. This one is just slightly below it. So I think I've gone a bit high on the punch. I can measure that, but so I'll adjust that, or measure how far out I am anyway, and then I'll cut 2 pieces of 1/4 inch aluminium and we'll drill some holes and hopefully get those in the right place. I just cut the alloy pieces out, so while they're cooling I drilled here. So you may remember I had the little hole, so then I drilled it out to 3/8 and then the 5/8, and of course, as we all know, a drill doesn't really drill a round hole. So after I drilled it out, I was able to run a ream through. I found a, what was it, what's 5/8, that's 10, 20, it was 21 30-seconds, so it was just that bit bigger. And then I was able to make up some of these. So as you can see, we've got a nice thick wall. That's going to go in there. And that's going to go in there. So they're just a nice fit. We'll bronze them in. So I've got to clean all this up so I can bronze it. And we'll go over now and see about drilling the holes in the alloy plates. Well, there's the 2 pieces of alloy cut out, and I've gone round and sanded them and tidied the edges up. So what we're going to do to make sure the holes are in the right place, I'll mark them up again. I sort of do this as a guide because sometimes when you put those hollow punches on, I can't see exactly whether I'm right. As we saw here, we're about 1/16 of an inch out. So what I'm going to do is lay that on there. And I'm going to mark the centre of that one. And put a little line through there. We'll measure that 2 inches, and then I'll use the compasses again to mark it up exactly the same way as I did with the cardboard, and then I can punch it and drill it. So let me do that. There, I've popped it. If you're wondering about when I put that line there, I measured from the side at both ends. We're 1/2 inch in. So then I popped them. They're exactly 2 inches apart. So now I can set the compasses, and we'll mark that 2 1/8 and 2 3/16. Alright, now I've drilled one plate. So let's see what we've got here. Very good, it actually fits. I've got to take a little bit off here to fit into that recess. Other than that, that's fine. Now, I've only drilled one plate because, as I say, I'm always wary of drilling these through holes if you're sort of doing it freehand. It's fine if you're making the thing up and you can lay the tubes out and what have you. So what I'm going to do is get this to fit on here nicely. The backside one, I'm going to drill this hole, bolt it up, get it all nice, and then I'm going to mark through here to make sure I get the other side exactly right. I mean, it should be identical, but should be and shed work are two different things. So let me just ease that there so that'll fit in, and then we'll see about the other plate. I have the other plate on backside there, tightened up with a 10mm bolt, and there we have our 3/8 bolts in. I've got that set level with this one, and what I've got is I have some of these, they're actually made by DeWalt, these bits that have like the little starter point to them. So what I'm going to do is just ease that through there, and then that will mark the other side as if I've now that'll be as good as a punch mark. Okay, let's take that off there. Where's me spanner gone? There it is. And we should find that this has got two nice little dimples in it. Bolts along where I need them to be. And there you go. And we know that's dead right. So I'll go and drill 2 3/8 holes and we can put this plate on. I've drilled the 2 3/8 holes, so that goes on there like that. Goes through there. And that goes through there. See, no guesswork. Alright, so they just want the cross pieces bronzing in. But I've about run out of time, but more importantly, I've run out of argon. So seeing as that is the next job, I'm not going to be able to do it. So I'm going to go off and enjoy myself in Florida. So you go off and enjoy yourselves wherever you want to. See you in 2 weeks.